The guy was paying attention in class when, out of nowhere, the professor kicked him out with some bizarre remarks.
웬만하면 나와서 길러라.
Gyeon-woo was puzzled by the professor's words, but his girlfriend's explanation left him feeling utterly disgraced. He wanted to go back and explain, but his girlfriend had him in a firm chokehold, making him feel just as powerless as when they first met. Their encounter happened one night on the platform of the last train. She was teetering dangerously close to the edge of the tracks. In a split second, Gyeon-woo rushed forward to pull her back to safety. The girl was beautiful, like a character straight out of a comic book, but at that moment, Gyeon-woo didn't want much to do with her. He watched in horror as the girl, fighting the urge to vomit, somehow swallowed it back down, which was incredibly disgusting. Moments later, she transformed into a subway vigilante, slapping a guy who refused to give up his seat. Watching her fierce demeanor, Gyeon-woo feared she might turn her wrath on him next, and that wasn't even the worst part when the subway jolted. She couldn't hold it any longer. After making a mess, she even made sure to turn back and call out to him. Gyeon-woo hastily explained they weren't together, but seeing the disbelief in the passenger's eyes, he was at a loss for words. With no choice, he used his brand new sweater as a rag to clean the mess off an elderly man in front of everyone. Resigned, he even offered to pay for damages. However, the elderly man, recognizing that the girl didn't do it on purpose, didn't make things too difficult and urged him to quickly take her away. Feeling like he had been pardoned, Gyeon-woo quickly exited the train to rid himself of the trouble. He left the girl on a bench at the station, hoping she'd fend for herself. However, after walking only a short distance, he started to worry about what might happen to such a beautiful girl if something went wrong. So, he turned back and carried her on his back. Just like that, fate brought two strangers together, getting on the same train and getting off at the same station. What Gyeon-woo didn't know was that he was carrying not only his destiny but also the girl's burdensome past. After walking for what seemed like ages, Gyeon-woo finally found a small hotel in a secluded alley. He settled the girl in, intending to wash up quickly and leave, but he was caught off guard by two female officers.
손들어!
And so, for the first time in his life, Gyeon-woo ended up at the police station for doing a good deed, no less. Fortunately, he was an honest guy, and after explaining the situation, he was released. When he got home, he immediately went to catch up on sleep, but a call from an unknown number woke him up.
너 나 여관에 묻어놓고 빨개 벗고 뭐 했어?
에?
너 나와. 부평역 앞으로 지금 당장 나와.
The girl was on the other end, storming at him, not giving him a chance to explain. To clear things up, Gyeon-woo hurried to the subway station. When they met, Gyeon-woo explained everything in detail. The girl gradually recalled the absurd events of the previous night and fell into deep thought. Looking at her delicate features and arched eyebrows, Gyeon-woo was momentarily dazed, and the girl noticed it too.
그럼 너 나 꼬시는 거니? 너하고 난 그 어떤 운명적인 느낌이 없잖아?
To thank Gyeon-woo for his chivalrous help, the girl invited him for drinks. However, after a couple of drinks, she reverted to her state from the previous night, when she overheard a group of men at the next table making lewd comments about some young girls. The girl stood up and chased them away. Watching her righteous yet bold actions made the usually timid Gyeon-woo quite fearful. Back at the table, the girl unexpectedly shed tears, perhaps from the strong alcohol or from memories of her past. Concerned, Gyeon-woo quickly offered her a plaid handkerchief. Seeing the familiar pattern on the handkerchief, memories of someone she lost flooded back, and she was overcome with sorrow. She downed several gulps of alcohol before passing out. Left with no choice, Gyeon-woo carried her on his back once again and headed to that same little hotel, this time with a sense of willing sympathy. Because of the handkerchief, the girl decided to give herself a chance. So, whenever she had free time, she'd take the initiative to meet up with Gyeon-woo. For example, when Gyeon-woo was in class, she'd approach the professor with an irresistible reason, and they'd both be excused, leading to the scene at the beginning. To build up Gyeon-woo's courage, the girl would drag him to amusement parks to ride the scariest rides. Later, they'd sit by the lake and read the scripts she had written. The girl dreamed of being an editor and wrote many stories about beautiful women saving heroes. As her sole reader, Gyeon-woo was naturally expected to memorize every word. Otherwise, he'd be in trouble. As they spent more time together, the girl's wild side became apparent. She would unhesitatingly push Gyeon-woo into the water, only rescuing him when he was nearly exhausted. Exasperated, Gyun-woo confided in his friends, but they just teased him for not being manly enough. Determined to reclaim his dignity, he boasted that he'd break up with the girl. He even tried to chat up random women on the street, but when the girl turned around, Gyun-woo was so terrified that he turned and ran, quickly disappearing into the crowd. After escaping, he was too scared to return home, fearing the girl would find him, so he ended up sleeping on the street, only to be mistaken for a vagrant and taken to the police station. The girl rushed over as soon as she found out, but before Gyun-woo could express his thanks, she was already taking action.
너 또 한 번 이러면 죽어? 뭐? 아가씨 시간제일 쓰냐? 영어 아주 잘하더라 너.
As they spent more time together, their relationship gradually evolved from strangers to friends. Reading the girls' scripts became a regular part of their dates. Gyun-woo noticed that the heroine in the scripts always came from the future to rescue the hero in crisis, but he didn't understand why.
난 언젠가 미래인을 만나고 말 거야.
Unaware of what the girl meant, Gyun-woo instinctively said he hoped that person would come soon. Realizing what he said, he feared his future might become even more miserable, and sure enough, his fears quickly materialized. While playing a game on the subway where the loser got flicked on the forehead, Gyun-woo won a few rounds and flicked her forehead a little too hard, which made the girl hold a grudge. When it was her turn to win, she didn't hold back. It was the same when playing squash. The girl shots always hit Gyun-woo right in the face. Despite being mercilessly bullied, Gyun-woo couldn't get enough of it every time he saw the girl's radiant smile. They spent a happy period together and thought it could continue, but then they were caught by the girl's father. The strict father didn't say much, only advising them to keep their distance. Naive Gyun-woo didn't catch the hint and hastily nodded in agreement. It wasn't until he heard the argument by the window as he was leaving that he realized the implications. After that, the girl stopped contacting him, ending things as abruptly as they began. Just when Gyun-woo thought the girl had forgotten about him, he suddenly got a call from her. As bossy as ever, she demanded that he publicly present a rose at her graduation ceremony. Gyun-woo protested, but eventually showed up at the girl's school in disguise. He thought his low-key attire would help him blend in, but he unintentionally became the center of attention. Feeling overwhelmed by so many girls staring at him, the socially anxious Gyun-woo was about to flee, but as he turned to leave, a familiar tune began playing in the auditorium. It was his favorite song, Detention, which the girl played especially for him. Feeling the love expressed through the music, Gyun-woo finally shed his fears. Tearing off his disguise, he confidently walked toward his girl. In front of all her classmates, he slowly handed her the rose, bringing their two passionate hearts together. But love always makes people sensitive, and Gyun-woo sensed that the girl had an unspoken past. Her happiness was merely a shield for her melancholy. Yet, Gyun-woo threw himself wholeheartedly into her antics. They'd wear their high school uniforms and hit the bars, reliving their youth. Even though she still drank herself into a stupor each time, Gyun-woo knew that getting closer would only make the inevitable hurt worse. Still, holding the girl in his arms, who sought warmth from him, made all his sacrifices worthwhile. But before they could fully savor their love, it abruptly ended once again. The girl's father, seeing his daughter come home drunk again and again,
우리 딸 그만 만나게.
severed all ties between the two and arranged a blind date for her. Unable to bear the maturity of her suitor, the girl called Gyun-woo to rescue her from the situation. However, when Gyun-woo arrived, all he was met with was humiliation.
행복하시겠어요? 제가 귀가 따갑게 들었거든요. 아주 좋은 친구 같아요.
Awkwardness filled the air, and the girl excused herself to the bathroom to clear her head. But by the time she returned, Gyun-woo was already gone.
제가 지켜야 할 수칙을 적어도 10가지 알려줬어요.
술은 절대로 3잔 이상 먹이면 안 되고요. 아무나 패거든요. 가끔 때리면 안 아파도 아픈 척하거나 아파도 안 아픈 척하는 걸 좋아해요.
Hearing all the little details he had noted from their time together, the girl finally realized she had unknowingly fallen in love with the silly, goofy guy she had initially seen as a substitute. She frantically searched for him, but fate kept them apart, whether it was at a dimly lit street stall or a bustling street. Just as she was about to give up, she remembered the subway where they first met. She went to the station and repeatedly called his name over the loudspeaker. Upon hearing the broadcast, Gyun-woo rushed over, and they embraced tightly, but the embrace left the girl feeling conflicted. Still haunted by the past, she felt as if she were standing at a crossroads. To the left was her late love, who sacrificed his life to protect her. To the right was the naive boy who gave everything for her. Along with the endless opposition from her parents, both choices were equally agonizing, so she decided to walk away. The girl wanted to escape to a different city. Before leaving, she arranged to meet Gyeon-woo and asked him to stand on the opposite hilltop so the wind could carry her words to him.
나 정말 어쩔 수가 없나 봐. 나 다르다고 생각했는데 나도 어쩔 수 없는 여잔가 봐.
As they parted, she took out a time capsule, burying their unresolved feelings and promising to open it together in 2 years. They went their separate ways, and Gyeon-woo boarded the train first. Watching him leave, the girl suddenly realized something and climbed onto the moving train, searching for a chance, but the boy was thinking the same thing, and so... After that, she never appeared again, not even keeping their 2-year promise. Gyeon-woo came alone to the tree to open the time capsule and seek answers. It turned out that their meeting on the subway was exactly on the first anniversary of the girl's previous boyfriend's death. Their subsequent interactions were because he reminded her so much of him, whether it was the timely handkerchief, the flower given in class, or his tolerance of her antics. All made her feel as if her late boyfriend was still beside her. The more she tried to forget, the more she became immersed in the past. Another year passed before the girl finally moved on. When she returned to the tree, it had changed drastically. An old man who tended the mountain told her that in the spring, a lightning bolt split the tree in two. A boy had feared that the girl he loved would be heartbroken not to find the tree, so he went through a lot of trouble to plant a similar one. Only now did the girl realize how deeply that boy loved her and how she had lost both him and the part of herself that could still love because she was stuck in the past. With everything settled, the girl went on a blind date and called Gyeon-woo one last time, only to find his number had been disconnected. Standing on the platform, the girl stood outside the yellow line, just like before, hoping for a hand to pull her back. This time, though, she instinctively stepped back on her own. A girl who always believed in fate found herself doubting it. What she didn't know was that while the train schedules might change, the destination was set, and those traveling the same path wouldn't merely pass each other by. When the train arrived, the girl met her matchmaker, her ex-boyfriend's mother. The aunt knew how deeply the girl loved her son, so she had wanted to help her move on by introducing her to her nephew the year after her son's death. And that nephew was none other than Gyeon-woo, who had arrived on a train from the past, 3 years late.
엄마한테 한번 안 들려? 서로 아는 사이니?
못 믿겠지만 나 미래인 만난 것 같아.
Years later, when they held hands again, they held not only the past but also the rest of their lives together. And so the story ends. This movie has been out for 20 years, and despite the cliched plot, I've watched it countless times. Maybe it's because I remember how I used to laugh heartily at such cheesy scenes, or perhaps I regret that my story with him didn't end like in the movie. Or maybe, seeing someone else's story always makes me recall many names from my past, and those people have become topics I'm too embarrassed to bring up again. They were my unrequited love etched into a desk, the silhouettes running hand in hand at sunset, the promises to make someone happy, and the letting go when reality forced me to bow my head. In hindsight, dissatisfaction is life's norm, and neither time nor another person can help me get through it. It's my future self, who has let go and looks forward to what's ahead, who will see me through. Looking forward to meeting you again.